Shalom, friends. In this week's Torah portion of Ki Tetzei, meaning when you go out, we find Moses speaking to the children of Israel about a wide variety of circumstances and situations that might come up within covenant community, and how we are to respond with covenant faithfulness in those situations. We find a wayward animal, we're to help restore it to its owner. We find a bird's nest, we're not to take all the eggs. We're building a new home, and we want to ensure that our guests are safe while they're in our home. Well, we're to build a guardrail. And then we have an unusual command regarding pajamas. We've given someone a loan, they've given us their pajamas as a pledge to ensure that they will repay that loan. But we're to give them back their pajamas in the evening to make sure that they are able to sleep comfortably. And in the midst of all of this ethical matter, we find a command dealing with clothing, specifically with the corners of clothing. In Deuteronomy chapter 22 and verse 12, we have the commandment of tzitzit, or fringe. And it says that we're to place fringes on the corners of our garments. This command was initially given to us in Numbers chapter 15 in response to the 10 spies who gave false testimony regarding the promised land. But now, within the midst of this ethical matter, what is the Lord revealing to us? Well, one of the questions that we have to ask when we find something different within the flow of a text is, why is it different? Specifically, we ask ourselves within this context, how are we different? And how are we to be different? What makes us different? Now, from the outward appearance, it's our clothing. There's something different. There's something hanging from the four corners of this person's garment. Inwardly, it is a display that we are cleaving to and obeying the commands of the living God. But these fringe also separate us from the surrounding people groups. And we have examples in historic artwork, ancient artwork, where Jews and Hebrews were depicted as wearing fringes in ancient stone carvings, for instance. But on a much more basic level, in ancient times, people would set a seal in order to show our ownership or agreement in a document and so on. But not everyone had that liberty. Not everyone had the means to do that. And so they would use the tzitzit as a seal, as a sign that by their identity, by who they were and by who they were obeying, that they would agree to whatever the situation demanded of them. That was what made the children of Israel distinct, or was to make them distinct. It was to show the world that, yes, by nature we are different, we are to be different, we're striving to be different. We're not always succeeding, but we have a way of reconciliation because of that. Then we find an interesting situation that comes up in the Gospels. When Messiah, who is walking along the way, has a woman that reaches out and touches the fringe of his garment, the tzitzit of his garment. The texts today often say the hem of his garment. But she had an issue of blood. She was outside of covenant community because of that issue. She had lost everything that she possessed because of that issue, and she was desperate. She was in a horrible state. She was probably in heart failure. She had all of these things happening, but she still reached out for healing when the Son of Righteousness walked by, or more accurately, the servant of righteousness walked by. When she reached out, she risked judgment, she risked condemnation, she risked rebuke, but she reached out and took a hold of that fringe, which was a demonstration of Messiah's faithfulness. It was also his seal. It was his identity. When we look at Messiah fulfilling these commands, he was saying to the world, I am different, I am distinct, I am faithful to my Father in heaven. And this woman who had trusted doctors, she had trusted every means available to her, reached out for the faithfulness of Messiah in order to be restored. And that's the message for us today. Yes, we're commanded to be faithful to the commandments of God, but we know we're human and we're going to fall short of that. But Messiah is ever faithful. And when we are in a situation, a desperate situation, we can reach out for his faithfulness and know that is reaching out to the seal of who he is. Shabbat Shalom. Amen.